Just like learning anything in life, mistakes are bound to happen. It's a reality that none of us are spared. But if you want to create amazing React applications, I would advise that you try to avoid some of the errors I'm going to expound on. Some of the mistakes are fairly trivial and easy to fix or avoid, such as using class name instead of using class, while others are a bit more nuanced. Let's get into some of these common errors. But before you do that, do remember to click the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to developer content that will make you a better developer, one video at a time. While you're at it, you might as well like the video and leave a comment in the comment section. Without wasting much of your time, let's get into our video. I've made lots of mistakes as a developer, and one of the most common mistakes that I would make as a developer is when creating components. I seem to forget that in order to create a component, you cannot start the name of a component with a small letter. So that is not going to fly. You're going to get a React error. So in order to create your component or to create your component file, you have to start the name of that file with a capital letter like this. So now the reason why every React component have to start with an uppercase letter is because, first let's just do it, is because in React, components that start with a lowercase letter are assumed to be HTML elements like div or p tag, while components that start with an uppercase letter like my component are assumed to be custom React elements. So this is because React follows the convention of using camel case for custom component and lowercase for built-in HTML elements. And when JSX is transpiled, React converts custom components to a call to the corresponding JavaScript function. One of the other common mistakes that developers, especially new developers, tend to do is when trying to mutate the state the state that you're seeing over here. Some of them feel like you can actually reassign a state or actually mutate it directly. So let's see what happens if we try to do that. So we have a function over here and we're tying it to this on-click button that we have here. So let's try to mutate that state directly by saying count is equals to 45. So this is what most beginners would try to do. And this is the wrong way to actually do it. So let's go back into our code and let's see what happens if we try to do it like that. So you can see it's blank because there's an error that is happening over there. So you can see it's giving us an error. It's saying assignment to constant variable mutate state. So this is an error because we're trying to assign a constant and we're trying to mutate a state directly. So this is one of the errors that developers tend to make. So in order to mutate a state, you have to use the setter function. You have to say set count and then say 45. That is the only way that you'll be able to change the state of your state. Alright, so don't forget to put that arrow function, otherwise it's going to cause infinite re-rendering. So let's see what happens if we press this. We can see that it's going to now, if we press this, then the state is going to change accordingly. So remember not to mutate your state directly and instead use this setter method that you have over here in order to change your state. So let's say you want to render a list. Let's get rid of this. Let's say you want to render a list of items and you're using the map function in order to render the list of items. One of the mistakes that the developers forget is forget to supply the element over here with a key. Now a key is very important for performance optimizations in React. It's for the same reason that the keys that you supply to these child elements within a list need to be unique. So it's for performance optimization. So it's very important for you to supply your keys to the items inside of your list. And if we were to go back to our applications and we were to go to developer tools, you could see that React is complaining that each child in the list should have a unique key prop. So in this situation, in order to solve this problem, you would just like over here get an index and then just say key is equals to index. And then if we go back to application and refresh, we no longer get that error now, so everything is fine. So don't forget to supply your items inside of your list with the keys. Now this next error is one of the errors that I stumbled upon when learning React, and it was one of the most frustrating errors that I got. Most of the time when we're using the useEffect hook, and let's say we set a state, we want to, and then after that we want to use the state immediately. So what we're expecting here is this state over here, the count, to be 101. So you can see that the default state, let's start from there, the default state is 0. So in my useEffect, I set the state, then immediately I console log the state. So what you're expecting is to get 101 in your console. But actually, if you go back to our code, you will notice that actually it's 0 that is being console logged, and it's not 101, but the state is 101. So why is there a discrepancy between the console log inside of the useEffect and the count that we see on our screen? Because we expect to see 101 here, but for some reason we're not seeing it, we're seeing 0 instead. So why does that happen, and why is that a mistake in React? So it is important to note that React state updates are asynchronous. So the state may not be updated immediately after you call the setState function. This means that if you log the state immediately after calling setState, it may not reflect the updated value because that function is asynchronous. So the final mistakes that many React developers do when coding in React is creating what you call God components. So creating components that are too big and too complex is certainly one of the classic React mistakes, particularly among beginners. At first, if your application works, it's only natural to assume that your components are fine and fit for purpose. However, you'll soon realize that components that are too complex become hard to maintain in the long run. This ultimately makes your application harder to manage and harder to scale. The code becomes unwieldy, and needlessly difficult to work with. Instead, focus on small, modular components that have a specific job. Think of components as building blocks. Where possible, they should be reusable. It should be straightforward to drop the component into other positions within your application and not experience any type of bugs or any type of errors. So that's it for today's video. These are some of the mistakes that are always being experienced by beginners when it comes to React. If there's any mistakes that you know, please make sure that you leave them in the comment section, and I might just cover them in my next tutorial. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have subscribed to my channel. If you haven't, please press the like button. Make sure that you like this video and leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.